Hello everyone, my name is Ian Murphy. Today we'll be learning about planetary word correspondences. As noted in the last video, we did go over Lorne Edward Johndro's new conception for sign rulership, but today we'll be learning about his astrological dictionary. Now, I did learn some Hellenistic stuff from my instructor, Catherine Silverton. She's AFA certified. She did recommend this other author, Rex E. Bills, who wrote the rulership book. This one's a bit much, 400 pages worth, if anyone's interested. I do think he conflates too many topics with each planet. Over here, I think there's only about 30 pages that Johndro wrote. And you can kind of tell that this thing has been loved and abused because some of the pages are falling out. Been doing this for about 8 years. Don't really need it. I've memorized it by heart. But I will be going over, I'm not going to go through every single word for each planet, but I will be reading you the intro for it. And you can kind of see on the cover right here, the basics like I am, I see, I tell, I love, I do, I win, I build, I plan, I dream, I lack. And this is very valuable once you actually understand the sequences for each of the levels in the zodiac. You basically use this to unveil each of the statements in the zodiac, which is really fun. Here we go. So first page we have his wife, Marie Johndro, and she wrote Song of the Spheres. Out from Pluto's nothingness, where no thing is revealed, came I onto Neptune, then where nothing is concealed. There in dreams unending passed the idle days, till all mists ascending, I learned Uranus' ways. He, the mighty planner, in the cosmic scheme, sent me on my journey, wakened from the dream. Onto plain of Saturn, patience great I learned. While long years rolled by me, as for light I yearned, slowly from the darkness, onward still I came, to the bounteous giver, Jupiter his name. Here were countless blessings given unto me, from all lack and bondage Jove now set me free. Mars, the god of action, gave me strength to do, and so I paused with him a while ere, choosing paths anew. Then Venus, in her beauty, called in tones of love, and showed me pleasant pastures with bluest skies above. Fain would I have lingered with Venus all the while, to watch the lovelight in her eyes, the wonder of her smile. But Mercury soon beckoned, and I had all to learn about the telling of my life on each star in its turn, from Mercury on to the moon, where further knowledge lay. Strange paths were these I passed along upon my starry way. By dream and plan and patience and gift of friendly Jove, through winning and through doing, I reached the plane of love, with speech and thought by Mercury taught, to that pale orb of night, where all the knowledge of all time is gathered in her light. I brought my might of knowing, however small it be, to reflect it in the moon's light, that all men's eyes may see. So thus at last the planets passed, my lengthy journey done. I am a spark of wisdom, now a dweller in the sun. And we go on to Johndro's words for the Astrological Dictionary. Words but voice the music of the spheres. In prose and poetry, even their sound phonetic sense is often their sound meaning sense. As for example, Venus, we and us. Uranus, you run us. Saturn, sat or set, you are on. That is fixed, immovable, at rest. The spiritual ego, or self, the sun, as a spark of the immortal flame we term life, glows, radiates, and shines as I am that I am, as that which you are, a small part of that radiant self, is intercepted by and reflected back by the planets to and through you as an earthly or mortal body or organism. These reflections constitute your planets, the plans, life, or the self-sun has for you in the flesh during your physical pilgrimage. These planets manifest first as words. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh, and creates circumstances. Therefore, know and watch your words, and choose them with care. They are the bricks of your material structures. Your knowledge or ignorance of their true meanings and use becomes respectively the good mortar, binding your planets together into a rounded whole as your planets go their orbital ways, or the bad mortar that allows your plans to crumble into ruin and dust. Each planet is electrically charged by the bombardment of solar electromagnetic waves, light. Each planet oscillates on a definite series of harmonics of light frequencies, these harmonics being properties of each planet's respective volume, mass, and density. Hence, different words are associated with each planet, just as a different vibration is associated with the different notes of the musical scale. The angular relations of the planets, as seen from the sun at the time of your birth, define the association of their words into the messages of your radiant spirit. The angular relations of the planets, as seen from the earth at the time of your birth, define the association of their words into messages telling you, the mortal on earth, how you respond to the spirit. The usual horoscope deals with the latter as defining from a practical or materialistic standpoint your word building into personality and circumstances. In psychoanalytical problems, however, both the heliocentric sun and geocentric earth horoscopes must be consulted, since it is the conflict by contrast between the angles from these two centers that give rise to the knotty problems with which psychologists have to deal. But the given planetary words hold true for both kinds of horoscopes, and those who would better understand their true self need only to set up their horoscope from a heliocentric ephemeris in order to utilize this dictionary for that purpose. As the heliocentric angles or aspects between the planets have the same significance as like geocentric aspects, and of course the same zodiacal blanks and same aspectarian forms can be used for plotting and tabulating your heliocentric horoscope. Few words are given to the sun because few words express the I am. Moreover, I am, all the planets, and more. Yet they and their words are all of me. I can express in the flesh, and I, the sun, cannot express all my radiant angles short of as many lives are required to exhaust the total degrees of the zodiac and the total possible angles between the planets as a whole. Study the cover design as a key to the proper approach to the astrological dictionary. The planets abbreviations following words in the list mean A, that the preceding word, and often its derivatives, is ruled by the planet in whose list it appears, but qualified in detail by the planet or planets whose initial follows the word in parentheses. Examples under Mercury is governess, and then it has it under the bracket Venus, meaning a tutor, Mercury, of the young, Venus. Under Mercury is mutter, and then it contains the Saturn part, meaning to speak Mercury in a very low Saturn tone. Under Mercury is subpoena, which contains UJS, or Uranus, Jupiter, and Saturn, meaning a writ, Mercury, commanding Uranus, appearance at court, Jupiter, to testify under oath, Saturn. Under Mercury is typewriter, and it contains Uranus and Venus, meaning writing, Mercury, machine, Uranus, operated by touch, Venus. Under Uranus is the word water, power. And the water power contains Neptune there, power Uranus, and developed by water, Neptune. This word could be listed under Neptune as water power, Uranus, but as water is here only incidental to the objective power, it is more properly listed under Uranus and qualified by Neptune. Where a word is really compound, look for it in both lists. As for the sake of condensation, it is seldom repeated under both. B. That the preceding word is ruled entirely by the bracketed planet when another meaning of the word is implied. Examples: under Uranus is variety, and it contains the Neptune bracket. As a succession of different, Uranus, things, this word is ruled by Uranus and might be qualified by Jupiter as in succession and order. But when by variety we mean diversity, a difference without order, or an unorderly assortment of many things, it is more a Neptune word. Closely connotating the Neptune words chaos and confusion. Under Uranus is transportation with Neptune in the bracket. This is a Uranus word when we mean conveyance by land, on land by train, truck, or automobile. That's Uranus. But it is a Neptune word qualified by Uranus when we mean shipping overseas. As you learn to visualize the different natures of the planets by scanning their word lists, you will come to know which planet connotes the different meanings that attaches to many words. In this way, both students and non-students can add many words to these lists by studying them carefully in conjunction with Webster Dictionary. Words having many different meanings are omitted as space would not admit citing the meaning. To students of orthodox astrological texts, quite a few words will at first appear to be wrongly assigned. Where this seems to them be the case, the author invites the student to keep an open mind and suspend judgment, as it is proposed to follow this compilation with another treatise that will make very clear the reasons for any departures from earlier authorities, as well as clarify the principle underlying the assignment of tone and subtone natures to each arm of each aspect, as cited under the aspects pages 26 to 34. In fact, the author promises the later treaty will be a revelation for which the present work clears the way by breaking down prejudice against certain sweeping changes in one fundamental astrological concept, too long accepted by copyists as unquestionably true. That objective is the prime purpose in issuing the Astrological Dictionary and self-reading horoscope method for testing and proving the soundness of the work to follow, a work that will further extend and exemplify the use of this dictionary and interpretive method. The limited lists of words follow. That the lists are longest for Saturn and Uranus is partly due to the author's opportunities to check them. The compilation has revealed, however, that in all probability, if the entire words of Webster were assigned to the planets, sign, sun, the number of words to each planet would bear a very close relation to the respective masses of the planets. This would be a significant fact. So, in short, if you guys don't want to listen to me go through all the words for all the planets listed here, I'll give you a short version. So, with the sun, it deals with so the sun is heliocentric. It's at the center of our universe. So, it deals with things that are central, important, significant. You can also have people there. So, like celebrities, kings, queens. And it also deals with your life, your spirit, your soul. Wisdom, and also the sun for the men would be on the right hand side, whereas for women it would be on the left hand side. And when we're dealing with the moon, it's actually in reverse. So for the woman, the moon would be on the right hand side, and for the guy it would be on the left hand side. Now that we've gone to moon, that deals with the eyes, seeing, observing, focusing, looking. It also deals with pictures, images, photography, anything with the ocular area. the peeping Tom. It also deals with women in general, the cooks, the chefs of the household, the home, hotels, residents, um, cooking, eating, food, groceries. What else? Signs, symbols, indicators. I believe there's even an owl in there. um, I think that'll be it for now. Let me go on to Mercury real quick. So with Mercury, that deals with the brain, the head, thinking, um, communication, speaking, theorizing, articulating, being very vocal. Oration deals with speakers, professors, educators, teachers, students, pupils, people who like to read, research, study. Deals with philosophy, books behind me. Actually got True Node on my Mercury. Deals with books, literature. What else? Mathematics, words, statements, paragraphs. I think that'll be good enough. Oh yeah, and like debates and stuff like that. Venus. So that deals with people who are very youthful, children, kids, babies, infants, toddlers, or young adults. And then it also deals with very Venusian qualities, very beautiful, very attractive. So like you could have I know I said woman for the moon, but it's like very feminine. There's this saying, women are from Venus, men are from Mars, that sort of thing. So it's it also deals with makeup, art, society, social settings, parties. What else? Comedy, music, song, poets, poetry. What else could we put under there? Instrumentalists, so like people who play guitar. And it deals with things that are really delicious, like candy, snacks. Snacks would be more on the moon side, but like treats, things that are very sweet, savory, delicious. Also deals with colors and paint. In terms of, because we're also dealing with children here, you could be dealing with someone who's really naive, or someone who's just not unsophisticated would be it. Someone who's really immature as well. We also get people that will nod their head and say yes. So this is like an approval. Someone you would agree with, someone who's really diplomatic as well. That's just pleasant qualities. So we're gonna go on to Mars right here. Mars deals with like the masculinity principle, someone who's really strong, someone who's very brave, courageous. Deals with heroes, soldiers, people who are really aggressive, abrasive. It deals with attack and like the penetration, armies, warfare, just struggle in general. I did mention debate for Mercury, but this one's like really heated stuff. So like arguments, just like martial combat, injury. So if you have I've had this happen with accidents, car accidents specifically. I think it was transiting Mars, opposing my Mars, and then I got into an accident. You can actually use that as a basis. So if you're confused about whether to go for traditional astrology or the new standardized version, you can basically just look up the transits and figure out, just write down your day, and then you can look at the planets. And if you see some sort of pattern, that's the word you want to associate for, I think it was, it's a good way to figure out what words are connected to each of the planets. You just have to keep doing it, just keep practicing. And you can deal with other colors as well for Mars. So like what I'm wearing is red. So you don't have to stick with that one word. You can say mahogany, just different shades of red. Very fiery. It's very hot, very warm. That's where you get like heated exchanges. It also deals with violence, and like just hmm. um oh yeah, and thieves, burglars, things that people take and steal. Um Execution, action. I think that'll be it for now. Let's go on to Jupiter. So Jupiter is it's a very large planet. It's deals with abundance, um, gain, opportunity, financial income, wealth, prosperity, money, income. And when you get opportunists and opportunities, you'll find people in the market. You get vendors, owners. What else? Uh, it also deals with royalty, people who are really prestigious. You could also get someone who's very polite, and people who are like they want to have a schedule. Things are just very orderly and systematic. You can also get someone who's like really religious. Um, and it can deal with sequences, like I said, order, um, facts, truth, in quotations. Um, yeah, along with, so if you're trying to think of like colors, so this is royalty, we're going to be dealing with like purple, just very regal colors as well. You can also deal with gold, and I guess platinum, anything that's very valuable, in terms of like money and resources. Also, it's since I said large, it deals with like fat as well, and that's why you get that representation of like kings or like billionaires who are like big fat pigs, essentially. I think that'll be it for now. Let's move on to Saturn. Um, I actually really resonate with this planet. I got Saturn conjunct my ascendant. Deals with somebody who's serious and also shy and apprehensive, a little bit awkward. Um, can deal with poverty also. It's just very dark and depressing. Um, very low mood. It's negative, resentful, just bitter. What else? Oh, it can also deal with things behind you, like your shadow, your spine, your back, things that you cannot see because it's behind you. The past, time itself, memories. That's why you're looking back. Deals with things that are really ancient and old. I remember there was an article that I looked up, and it said that what was it? It wasn't like we weren't out of Africa. Apparently we came out of Asia because they found a really old skull for like what was it, like 1 million years ago. That at least that's what it was dated to. And I noticed Sun opposing transiting Neptune conjunct Saturn. So that deals with like things that are like really old in that area. So just another example. Also, my sister, when I read that article, my sister played this song from, I think it was On the Town, like it was a Gene Kelly movie. I'm kind of rambling here, but what was it? The song was like, "Modern man is not for me." And she basically goes and does her little dance routine, and she's talking about how she wants a caveman. So we were listening to that song, and she was like, "Yeah, this is a really excellent old school song that she really liked." But what else? Saturn can be dealing with hardships, things that are also really solid and like very dense, like a rock, stone. You also get gravestones, death. It deals with the Dark Ages. Things that are also lethal and deadly. I mentioned before skulls, bones, things that are really scary and taboo and forbidden, and things that go like shh. Uh, Remember how I said Mercury is about speaking and talking? This is the complete opposite. You'll actually find Mercury opposing Saturn. So people have Saturnian characteristics, they tend to be more shy and reserved, and silent as the grave, just very quiet. Also, it deals with people who are really stingy, parsimonious. Johndro did include races in here, so he put the Jews for Saturn. That's also, if you look at Mosh Edel, you'll find Saturn's Jews, and so there is a historical trace for it. It also deals with like the father. It also deals with like hard workers, the working stiff, slaves. I think that's gonna be it for now. Oh yeah, and also deals with prisons, people who are just stuck and chained. You can't move; you're just frozen in place. It also deals with things that are very cold, cool. Yeah, let's just go on to the next one. So Uranus, one of my favorite planets. I got most of my planets in Sagittarius. So instead of it being ruled traditionally by Jupiter, it's actually Uranus. So I definitely resonate with this as well. So Uranus deals with travel, moving, transportation. I also like to drive. Not a lot of people that I know like to drive, and I'm fine. I was actually my last relationship was me visiting a girlfriend back in West Virginia, and that was like a 4.5 hour drive to there on the weekend, and then 4.5 hours driving back. And I did that for about 6 months. Didn't mind it so much. I just basically turned off my brain. But eventually, she became unappreciative, and I was like, "This is not worth it." But overall, driving really resonated with me. Also deals with exploration, journeys, adventures. Just It also deals with people who are really creative, geniuses, scientists, innovators. Deals with bosses, supervisors, people at the very top, like leaders. It also deals with control, government, elections, voting, things that cycle and change, like the seasons. You get generators, and it's spinning really quickly, very fast, like lightning. You can think of like Sonic the Hedgehog. I know that's like a weird example, but you can think of him running, moving, going very fast. So it's a good representation. It also deals with animals and creatures, things that are really unusual and cartoonish, very animated as well. You get animators here, designers, creators, directors. What else? It deals with motion pictures, but that's a little bit more on the Moon and Neptune side, but like just movies in general. Things that are exchanged, transferred, energy, things that spin, the vortex, things that oscillate, planets as well, things that are very spherical as well. Is that it? For colors, orange. I always actually liked fall colors, so like orange, red, all those colors. Like the leaves changing. That's something I really enjoy. It's also my favorite season, fall. Oh yeah, and because it deals with different things, you also have that contrast. Um, Things that are different, discrimination, racism. It also deals with lineage and the races themselves, your forefathers. Um, what else? I think that'll be it for now. I'm trying to think of as I mentioned before, like transportation, cars, vehicles, trucks. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. So Neptune, that deals with illusion, delusions, things that you expect and predict. Deals with forecasts, the news anchors, People that have assumptions or presumptions, people who are psychic, anything to do with the future, like tomorrow. You have like prognosticators. I don't know if I said that pronounced properly. Prognosticators. Um, Presidents, people that you trust or have confidence in. Um, you also get, like I did mention, religious for Jupiter, but you can also have it for believers of faith in this area, like Catholics, Christians in general, like Mormons. Um, Things that float and fly, like the birds. It also deals with like romance, the peak and pinnacle of something, like a mountain. You also get the goat, because it climbs up the mountain. And this is where you get Capricorn, which is ruled by Neptune, not Saturn. Also deals with water, things that are just wide, like the universe, everything, the cosmos. It can also deal with countries, nations, communities, groups, people in general. Anything where terms like you have like many different types of people, humanity, or humanitarians. What else? It also deals with revelation, being transparent and very open and public. Is that it? Water, liquid, solutions, things that are very oily. Yeah, let's just stick with that. Now for Pluto. Pluto deals with the criminal forces that we have, like evildoers. Actually, that specifically, that would be found in late Cancer, but just things that are really bad, shitty, deals with garbage, filth, things that really stink, sulfur. You can also find rodents here, scavengers. It's just like really grimy, gross things, poop, shit. Also bullshit, things that are really nonsense and ridiculous. People who are guilty of crimes. Parasites, vultures, psychopaths, people who are empty inside, monsters. And more on the practical end, you have like ants, insects, things that are very tiny and microscopic, like viruses and diseases, plagues, illnesses, people who are really sick, the victims, the outcasts, orphans. Orphans could fall under Venus because of the kids, but it's just someone who is very lacking, things that are not very healthy. You also get space because there's nothing in that room. It's there to be filled in. Same thing when we have statements like it, they, they're basically like substitutions for things that you're expecting the other person to know, but it's actually a mystery. It deals with the void, or outer space. That's more of the early Pisces area, but just space in general. The gap in between words, because there's nothing there. And the unknown. Yeah, so I think that'll be it for the planets. Oh yeah, and things that rot and decay, things that degenerate and spoil. What else? Can deal with vanity as well. Error, bugs, things that are incorrect, things that disappear and vanish. So we're going to go ahead and go with the continue on with the aspects since we're done with the planets here. The conjunction at 0 degrees and every 15 degrees or multiples thereof are electrical axes found in various substances capable of taking on a crystalline structure in passing from a liquid or fused state to a solid. These axes intersect, forming mutual angles. These same angular relations, which in astrology are termed aspects, between the planets, as seen from the Earth, the stage of our life dramas. At the times of our births, define the patterns of our lives as expressed in personality, health, aptitudes, circumstances, etc. Why this is so is being made clear by the advance of electrophysics. For simplicity, each 15 degrees of the circle may be revealed or viewed broadly as alternatively positive and negative, extrovertive and introvertive. In this general sense, we tabulate them into two groups as follows. So he's going to show aspects right here. Oh. I'm not actually going to repeat that. Hopefully you guys screenshotted that. In your initial studies in interpreting your horoscope, you may, for simplicity, adhere to this general classification into A and B aspects, using for the most part words of good qualities when the planet forms any of the A aspects, see above, with other planets, and the words of bad qualities when the planet forms any of the B aspects, see above. By this simple method alone, you will find your horoscope a mine of information. However, this rough and ready distinction of aspects into just two groups is not strictly true nor complete, for each aspect in both groups has a series of far more specific meanings, some good and some bad, and these you must consider when you become more familiar with the following instructions. The truth is, each aspect, like each planet, is good for something, also good for nothing, bad for some things. We can obtain some good from any aspect if we use it for its right purpose. And we may also suffer through any aspect if we try to use it out of time, place, and purpose. Therefore, you must learn more about each arm end of each aspect. To this end, study very carefully what now follows. When any two planets form any aspect except in an exact conjunction, they are respectively east and west of each other in the zodiac. And as shown by the tone and subtone planets given above, the aspect has a very different meaning for each of the two planets forming the aspect. Refer now to your horoscope. Suppose Jupiter, any planet, was on the line between Sagittarius and Capricorn, and Venus, any planet, was on the line between Aquarius and Pisces. Then the angle between Jupiter and Venus, as seen from the Earth, E, or center, of the horoscope, would be just 2 signs, or 60 degrees, as each sign has 30 degrees and 12 signs, making the 360 degree of the circle of the heavens. In such a case, Venus would be east of Jupiter, and Jupiter would be west of Venus. But suppose Venus was on the line between Libra and Scorpio. In such a case, Venus and Jupiter would still form a 60-degree angle, but Venus would be west of Jupiter, and Jupiter east of Venus. Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune, or any other planets, were in the relations V, J, and N, corresponding to Aries, Cancer, and Libra. Or any other signs in like relations, Venus would be 90 west of Neptune, Neptune 90 east of Venus, and 90 west of Jupiter. Jupiter 90 east of Neptune, and Venus and Jupiter equally east and west of each other by opposition, 180 degrees. It should be clear that no matter what the angle between the planets, east in the zodiac is anti-clockwise, as Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, etc., and west is clockwise, as Sagittarius, Scorpio, Libra, etc., throughout the entire circle. Centuries ago, the early astrologers used the terms dexter and sinister, and rightly made a great distinction in interpretation. This distinction has been obscured and neglected in modern times, and it is herewith restored and revised in a manner admitting of unlimited elaboration. Therefore, in the A and B crude groupings of aspects, there is given under east planet and west planet, the planetary tone and subtone of each arm of each aspect. The reason for this will appear in a later work. Meanwhile, accept the fact and use it. Thus, for the 120-degree aspect, the eastern planet in the aspect takes upon its own word nature a tone of the planet Mars and a subtone of the planet Mercury. The western planet in this aspect takes upon its own nature a tone of Uranus and a subtone of Mercury. For example, the planet holding the east arm would retain its own word nature, but it would also make one executive, Mars-minded Mercury. The planet holding the west arm would retain its own word nature, but it would also express its qualities through inventive Uranus, mindness, Mercury. Mr. Henry Ford's horoscope shows 4 close 120-degree aspects by way of verifying this principle. Indeed, it is only by reason of these tone and subtone principles, wheels within wheels, that the sun, moon, and 8 planets and 13 aspects can and do govern life in all its modern complexities, traits, activities, and conditions. Just a few contrasting definitions of aspects will follow to aid you in using the Astrological Dictionary and reasoning out for yourself hundreds of other details about each aspect and the vast distinction between its east and west arm in each case. In this, you are always to make the words of qualities of the subtone planet serve the words of qualities of the tone planet, and both serve the word nature of the planet forming the aspect. At first, this will appear as difficult or impossible feat of analysis and synthesis, but as you become more familiar with the words listed under each planet, you will get so clear a picture of what each rules in all parts of speech that you will become amazed over what you will discover about yourself as you persist in developing your powers of deduction and inference. It is just a matter of combining and recombining the horoscopically indicated words. And B, in studying your horoscope or in using the aspects and dictionary for checking up on world events in the figures of eclipses and lunations, you must not depend entirely on the following fragmentary aspect meanings, but rather learn by studying example 2 how to make up other aspect phrases or meanings from the words connoting the tone and subtone planets, thereby extending your understanding of any matter that may arise for study or judgment. The cited meanings of each arm of the aspects are among those the author has tested, but the meanings are so many only a few can be given in this condensation. Even with the limited number of words in the Astrological Dictionary, it is almost, if not quite impossible, to exhaust the specific meanings of the aspects. Each time you recombine their tone and subtone, words you will add to your store of information and find it true. The same astrological truths could not be discovered and collected by centuries of observation of horoscopes, but by this basic principle and the list of words, you can tell what planets and aspects are involved in most any problem. And knowing this, you can scan the horoscope for the verification or answer to your problem. Neither mysticism nor intuition is involved. It is purely an orderly mechanical arrangement of all the allowable indicated words qualifying the planets forming the aspect and the planets constituting the tone and subtone of each end of the aspect. If you can in the least measure, solve crossword or jigsaw puzzles, you can solve your horoscope by this method, making it a phonograph record or an automatic mechanical loudspeaker, rendering your program from the planet's relative positions at the time of your birth. At heretofore, astrological texts have taught that 0, 30, 60, 120 are good aspects, and the 45, 90, 135, 180 are always bad aspects, while ignoring entirely the 15, 75, 105, and 165. An added clarifying note on the 0, 90, 180 is given, but always consider each end of the aspect on its own merits or demerits. And here we reach examples on the nature of aspects. In these citations, East examples meanings to be blended with the word nature of the East planet, and West examples meanings to be blended with the word nature of the West planet. 0 or 360 degree aspect. Actually, one second, I'm kind of thirsty here. This is actually one of my favorite drinks, red dragon fruit. It's from Fresh. Not sponsored. Oh, delicious. 0 or 360 degree aspect. This is termed conjunction, meaning with while, during, unison, alpha and omega, the A to Z of anything. Nothing, 0 degrees, or everything, 360 degrees. Birth, or idiocy on the one hand, or a complete span of life, intellectually devoted to the things ruled by the planets forming the aspect, when, as in nearly all cases, this aspect is not exact. Table A, page 25, shows its east arm, or planet, takes on the tones of Mercury, and its west arm, the tones of Pluto. It is thus the aspect of mindless mind, or lack, Pluto, of intelligence, Mercury, or the thinking, Mercury, and telling, Mercury, mind, Mercury. So it deals with oratory, eloquence, teacher, lecturer, writer, interpreter, etc. When the two planets are 2 to 5 degrees apart, the east planet tends to abortive beginnings and learning along lines ruled by the east planet, and the west planet falls a little short of completing its intellectual task in an entire lifetime. The west planet may indicate either weakness, blunders, folly, or a mystery of nonsense, detail, precision, mystery, Pluto. Representing either or both 0 and infinity, 360 degrees, the conjunction is common in the horoscopes of those who approach life with either or both microscopic or telescopic vision, rather than with a vision for ordinary volume, distance, or time. They may be non-entities, unassuming scientists probing the infinitesimal or macrocosmic giants of intelligence, who know no expansive or elaboration limits and tolerate no half measures, contrast with the 180 degrees. They may understand Mercury, themselves, or our solar system as but specks in infinity, or they may develop the idea, Mercury, that they are it, Pluto. Examples of the latter are Napoleon's and the ex-Kaiser's Mars conjunction Neptune, obsession Neptune for world Neptune, conquest Mars. In both cases, Mars was east, alpha, and Neptune west, omega. Their circle beginning in war, Mars, and ending in respective banishment, Neptune, and abdication, Neptune. For examples of the better effect of conjunctions, A. Sun conjunction Mercury, Bacon, Poe, Bergson, Tolstoy, Gladstone, Verne, Haggard, Maupassant, Dante, Kant, Hardy, etc. B. Sun conjunction Venus, Shaw, Wagner, Shelley, etc. C. Sun conjunction Mars, Henry Irving, Belasco, Edwin Booth, etc. Note that the first group expressed the intellectual and interpretive tone of Mercury as brilliant, Sun, writers, Mercury, thinkers or speakers, Mercury. The second group expressed the intellectual Mercury tone as brilliant, Sun, dramatist, Venus, composer, Venus, and poet, Venus. The third group expressed the intellectual tone of Mercury as brilliant, Sun, actors, Mars. Now contrast these with the case of an idiot born with the wide conjunctions of the Sun with Uranus, Moon, and Mercury, all west of the Sun, taking a Pluto tone, thus crippling Pluto, the Moon, Mercury, and Uranus faculties through his life, Sun. Studying the case of Kipling with Sun conjunct Jupiter and Mercury conjunct Venus and Mars, or Shakespeare with Moon conjunct Sun, Venus conjunct Neptune, and Jupiter conjunct Saturn. Try to familiarize yourself with these principles, as the other aspects must here be explained more briefly. "15-degree aspect." So for the east, we're going to be looking at Mercury and Venus, and the west we'll be looking at just Pluto. East, witty or learned, Mercury. Company, companions, entertainers, Venus. Refined or polished, Venus. Mentality, Mercury. Writers, reciters, or interpreters of drama, song, music, verse. Humorous books, love letters. Society reporter. Errand boy, music teacher. School children. Acceptance speech. Consensus of opinion, letters or words of congratulation or consolidation. Or consolation, I should say. Contented mind, consistent reasoning, ease in learning, favorite author or speaker, lip reading, reconciliation of theories, signing of treaties, librettist, vocalists, etc. On the west end, baffling, mysterious, obscure, or unsolved crimes, victim of gangsters or the underworld, bedridden invalids, lost loot, foolish intemperance, unknown germs, incomprehensible disappearance, wretched pariahs, unsolved riddles or puzzles, sunken wrecks, lack of sleep, unredeemable criminals, etc. 30-degree aspect. For the east, we'll be dealing with Mars and Mercury here. For the west, we'll be dealing with Neptune and Pluto. For the east, penetrating, cutting, ironical, and argumentative mind or speech. Brain or ear or throat, surgeon. Or students of surgery. Vigorous, active mentality. Champions of theories or in debate. Stolen writings or ideas. Plagiarism, intellectual discord. Annoying rumors. Acrimonious letters. Actors, dialogue or rehearsal. War correspondent. War talk. Burned manuscripts, books or documents. Courage or defiance of opinion. Forceful writing. Pointed advice. Fiery oratory. Angry rejoinder. Sharp tongue, etc. On the west side, you have exposure of crime or criminals. Revealer of mysteries. Compassion for the weak, foolish, or crippled. Petty fraud or graft. Salvage of waste. Raising of wrecks. Credit losses. Confession of crime. Weakness. Evading conviction. Feigned slumber. Flood wreckage. Hypnotic sleep. Marvel at nothing. Faith in nobody. Pending dishonor. Political corruption. Possible vacancy. Openly bad or pretended wickedness. Psychology of sleep and dreams. Gang criminals, etc. For the 45-degree aspect, we have on the east end Venus and Jupiter, and on the west side we have Uranus and Pluto. For the east, we have social virtues and esteem, friend or companion of nobility or the rich, easy fortune, good friends, gentlemen of the jury, good arbitrator or peacemaker, recommendation of pardon or leniency, financial gifts, famous sculptor, poet, or composer, benefactor to art, grand opera, plenty of leisure, precious gems, reward for favors, worthy affection, etc. On the west end, we have willful blunders and follies, escape, reform, or release of criminals, discovery of crime, germs, the vacuum tube, etc. The inventor or manufacturer of tricks or puzzles, manufacture of cigars, cigarettes, fertilizer, etc. Experiments in the unknown, wizards, walking in sleep, gateway to Hades, auto or train wreckers, sudden loss, destruction or disappearance, going bad, machine junk, extraordinary bad form, industrial slack, etc. For the 60-degree aspect, we have on the east end Saturn and Venus. On the west end, we have Saturn and Neptune. So for the east end, we got loyalty in friends or attachments, elderly friends, dependent mate, children, or near relatives, quiet contentment, mining of copper, hard work in youth, and easement of leisure in age, plain but neat and clean tastes, easements through thrift, printing or suppression of plays, songs, or verse, strict with mate or children, brief visits, ancient arts, the hung jury, timely gifts, past censures, enjoyments, etc. On the west side, you have mining promotions, exploitations or fraud, shrinkage or stabilization of credit, merger of corporations, deflation of watered values, or downturn from inflations. The duty to humanity as a whole, debt postponement, moratoriums, declining confidence, abolishment of prisons or death penalty, farm abandonment, delayed publications, disappointed hopes, etc. For the 75-degree aspect, on the east end we have Uranus and Venus. On the west end we have Jupiter and Neptune. So for at least on this angle, this is talking about late Sagittarius on the east. So you have free love, independence of children, divorce of mate, estrangement from friends or near relatives, meddlesome intimates, genius for music, poetry, song, humor, and drama, movie, plays, and players, the difficult made easy, designers of art, engravers, jewelers, etc., broadcast entertainers, foreign tastes, masters of humor, travel for pleasure, distant relatives, leader of orchestra, director of plays, exchange of favors. On the west end, you have, this will be late Capricorn, financial booms, promotions, or frauds, money, inflation, good credit, honest politician, investment trusts, great hopes, faith, expectations, fortune in oil, great publicity, greater interdependence, better forecast, fine future, true atonement, large imagination, splendid possibilities, new laws or legislation, philanthropy, gold shipments, etc. For the 90-degree aspect, which is a square, you have this aspect termed a square is on the square in proportion to its exactness. When it is 85 to 89 degrees, it is under square and tends to more or less unsquareness or crookedness, practiced or met with as the case may be. When it is 91 to 95 degrees, it is over square or over righteous and cheats oneself or receives more than due from others by giving and demanding too much, or it makes for obnoxious moralizing and snobbery. The square is a neutral phase, electrically speaking, meaning that when it is exact, there is no mutual induction or inducement between the two planets. Nothing that one planet disposes to is influenced by the other. Hence, there is often dealies and cross purposes without mutual results. It stands for neutrality and delay alternated by precipitous action. For me, when I think of the 90 degrees, I always think of Mars stuff, like events, occurrences, things that just happen and occur. So for the 90-degree aspect, for the east side, we'll be looking at Neptune and Mars, which is the early Cancer portion. On the west end, we'll be looking at Neptune and Mars again for the early Capricorn side. So for the east, we have high seas accidents or wars, overseas or world wars, national and naval defense and offense, army transports, steam heat, postponed action, hence delays, Turkish baths, subordination of future considerations to the merely expeditious, World War veterans, national or world champions, Pugil, world discord, assumed parts or roles, actors, water hydrants, oil fires, premonition of danger, forecast of events. On the west side, we have high corporation or public executives, president cuts in the Navy, strengthening of credit, act on foresight, or shape action to ideals, faith, hope, or expectation. The Red Cross, nurse, accidents to aviators, or wounded sailors, armament, abolishment, or postponement, army deserters, strengthening of interdependence, eager enthusiasm, perform in public, wrangling politicians, fearless zealots, etc. NB. The tone and subtone of one arm of this aspect is exactly reversed in the other. This makes the square contradictory, action-based on foresight, and foresight learned through rash action, postponed action, and then lucid action based on vision, or on trusting to providence. 105-degree aspect. For the east, we have Pluto and Mars, and on the west side, we have Venus and Uranus. So for that east side, that's late Cancer, and on the west side, you have late Gemini. Well, actually, not the late Gemini part. That would be late Sagittarius. On the east, you have wrecking or crippling accidents, submarine defense or attack, criminal assault or murder, wastage or devastation by fire or war, burning of rubbish, ulcer or cancer operations, disabled war veterans, erosion of iron or steel, espionage in war, weak defenses, foolish action, infected wounds, empty box, defective heart, devoid of courage, lost battles, contests, spunk, etc. On the west side, you have a love for freedom, adventure quest, travel, antiques, races, foreign parts, affectional estrangement or divorce, designer or manufacturer of gowns, children's frocks, art of caricature, artistic genius, dramatic plots, originators of plays, songs, verse, love of or marriage to, divorced persons, love, jealousies, traveling salesmen, attract strangers, but disagree with intimates, welcome change, like to boss, metal, tastes change. For the 120-degree aspect, we have, this aspect, termed a trine, symbolizes a good try and try again, striving, Mars, for unique, Uranus, authority in some special field. It is often given to experimentation, invention, exploration, manufacturing, or reform, Uranus qualities. But because of the Mercury subtones, it puts much thought, Mercury, into effort. So for the east side, you have Mercury and Mars. So this is the early Leo side. And on the west side, you have Mercury and Uranus, which is the early Sagittarius side. On the east, you have intellectual, executive, courage and defense of opinions, but sarcasm and irony, clever in steel or metal, construction, logical in debate, sharp wits, war correspondent, may suffer from plagiarism, i.e. stolen writings, writes forcefully, verbal contention, etc. On the west side, you have mentally original, creative, inventive, independent, experiments with ideas and theories, understanding of machine production, distribution, transportation, physics, electricity, foreign correspondent, writer of advertising, adventure, astrology, physics, engineering, electricity, broadcast announcer or speaker, telephone engineer, story plots, exchange quotations, translator or reviser of books, educational reform, consulting, engineer, daily columnist, freelance writer, etc. Trines are the explainers, Mercury, of the why, which, and whither, Uranus. 135-degree aspect. On the east, you have Venus and Jupiter, which is late Taurus. And on the west side, you have Pluto and Uranus. So this could either be talking about late Scorpio or late Aquarius. For the east side, you have friend of or among the wealthy, honored, or respected, easy money, grand jury, or 45-degree east, money or success, from music, plays, drama, songs, or amusement field, ambassador and diplomat, lavish or good tastes, gifts of money to friends, wealth through mate, social excellence, children fortunate, leisure in abundance, marriage to nobility, lenient or kindly judge, social justice or rights, generous praise or applause, court of equity, or 45-degree east, easing of taxation, lady bountiful, good morals, also 45-degree east, social prestige, popular ruler, sovereign garment, stores, accept the honors, please the court, agreeable to law, social betterment, the love of justice, etc. On the west side, you have crimes of jealousy or passion, lack or loss of liberty, power, authority, or locomotion, wasted creative, talent, initiative, speed or venturesomeness, a lost cause, criminal or debauch reform, gambling on the races, devastating cyclones, storms, or earthquakes, limping gait, lost in blizzard, wreck by explosion, rum runners, unemployment in industry, infernal machines, etc. For the 150-degree aspect, we have on the east side, Mars and Jupiter, which is early Virgo. And on the west side, you have Saturn and Neptune, which is early Aquarius. So on the east side, you have the defendant at law and attorney for the defense, a battle for rights, stolen goods, merchandise, or money, merit or medals for valor, war honors, good executive, strengthening of banking laws, contention over money, defense of honor, police courts, keen critic, hardware stores. On the west side, you have farm credit, mortgages, deferred debts, moratoriums, credit and inflation, deflation, fake, abandoned, or exploited mines, shrinkage of shipping and exports, world depression, private confessionals, abhorrent of nature fakers, concealed fraud, holdups, whites in the north, etc. See 60° west, which reverses the tone as upholds darkies in the south. Oh yeah, early Scorpio has these tones as well. At 165° aspect, on the east side you have Jupiter and Jupiter, which is late Virgo. And on the west side you have Saturn and Uranus, which is late Libra. So for the east you have legal justice, civil law or rights, Supreme Court, his honor, the judge, tax assessments, better banking and finance, exoneration by the court, parliamentary law, investment values, registrar of titles, capital investment, the goody good, large wealth, gold standard, or 135° east. On the west side, mining engineer, railway or highway, builder or contractor, farm tractors, heavy trucks, freight transportation, division or subdivision of property, farmers' strikes, riots or revolt, industrial depression or revival of consumption, electrochemistry, daily press, industrial mergers, rubbing behind, going to wait, power utilities, etc. For the 180° aspect, this aspect in opposition naturally means opposition, enemies, conflict within oneself and with others. Being a half circle, it stands for half measures. When this aspect is exact, it takes a blended tone of Saturn and Jupiter. Noble, purposes aligned with oneness or onerous duties. Prolonged wane of the rights, almost simultaneous success and failure. Example, look to Woodrow Wilson, who went to Europe for the good of civilization and so returned a crushed and beaten man. However, when, as usual, this aspect is a few degrees more or less than 180°, consider its east arm Jupiter-Jupiter and its west arm Saturn-Saturn, as listed under B aspects, page 25. In such case, note as follows. On the east side, much like 165° east, bringing great honors and fortune, positions where great good and unimpeachable integrity is the aim or expected of one. This is the late Virgo, and the Saturn is the early Libra. On the west end, you have stern judgment, discipline, austerity, humiliation, silence, secrecy, slave or victim of precedent, doubt or fear, denying, declining, frustrating, and either very greedy or very selfish. Opposition of the masses, arrest of efforts to half measures, and defeat in time. Example, contrast a Calvin Coolidge with Sun at 180° Saturn, Sun east and Saturn west, whose administration began with ceremonial simplicity, Saturn, one night in a New England farmhouse, Saturn, and ended in what was supposed in 1928 to be standardized prosperity, with B. Herbert Hoover with Sun opposing Saturn, Sun west and Saturn east, who was inducted into office on the high tide of that glorious Jupiter, prosperity Jupiter, but whose administration closed with sweeping Saturn repudiation, of the wondrous half measures for meeting the depression. Consider too the ex-Kaiser and Nicholas II, both with Sun opposing Saturn, who from royal Jupiter, pomp Jupiter, descended 180 degrees, respectively, to quiet solitude and tragic death. NB. It seems almost needless to here again remind you that the exact meanings of all aspects are in each case and in each arm thereof, qualified by the word natures of the two planets forming the aspect. But the foregoing explanations and examples suffice to make it clear that in the heavens, as upon the earth, truly, east is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet. For this reason, the truth about the aspects is an integral part of the Astrological Dictionary. Instruction for self-reading horoscope. To read your horoscope, study carefully these instructions. 1. In the Astrological Dictionary, you are given lists of words defining the different influences of the sun, moon, and planets. Study first the foreword thereto, for at times your problems will involve a word not found in the list. In such cases, refer to your Webster. Weigh well the exact meanings of the word and compare it with simpler words given in the list. You will thus often be able to associate the new word with the proper planet. For example, suppose the word accede was not given. When it is used in the sense to agree, you would know it is ruled by Venus because you find agree under Venus. When accede is used in a subordinate sense as to attain to something such as a position of honor, Jupiter, or unique power, Uranus. You would also associate accede with one or other of these planets because the ascension, Venus, is then taken for granted and merely incidental to the thing acceded to. In such case, it might appear that accede is ruled by Jupiter or Uranus, but an astrological lexicographer must in truth place this word in the Venus list and qualify it by bracketing after it the abbreviations of the planets ruling the words most commonly associated with it as things acceded to. As a reminder of this word's ascension is listed under Jupiter and followed by Venus to show dominant reference to Venus. Remember that many words are compounds of two or more planets. As examples, the word uphold is listed under Neptune as uphold Saturn because under Neptune you find up and under Saturn you find hold. It is so listed in the sense of support Neptune rather than prop Saturn. But in the sense that uphold means to bear up, bear Saturn, up Neptune, it could also be listed under Saturn as uphold Neptune. But note that such a reversal in the order of citing the rulers of the word shows the word uphold is not good English when we mean to bear up, and hence the word is listed under Neptune and qualified by Saturn rather than the other way about. In contrast, a hold-up is properly listed under Saturn as a hold-up Saturn when the word is associated with a robbery or when it means a tie-up of affairs involving a delay Saturn until some future Neptune time Saturn, as it is the delay that is here stressed and not the up Neptune, nor the future Neptune. Thus, to know planets, you must know words. Therefore, augment your insight of the Astrological Dictionary by studying your Webster. 2. Under the aspects are given explanations and examples of the different meanings of the 13 angular aspects that make up the 24 15-degree hour angles of the circle or horoscope. Thus, in the half circle, there are 12 angles of 15 degrees and multiples thereof, and the conjunction makes one more, and other 11 angles or aspects of the other half of the circle are conversely the same angles as the first 11. When at the time of your birth, any two planets form any of the 13 aspects, they have a long series of definite influences and meanings relative to your character, tastes, abilities, and circumstances. The purpose of word coding the planets and aspects as herein given is to enable you to read your own horoscope without spending years studying astrology. thus giving you the direct self-use of my 30 years of research. A few minutes of concentration and evening, and you will soon find that reading your own horoscope is not only more fascinating and mentally stimulating than solving a crossword or jigsaw puzzle, but will repay you in endless accurate information about yourself in both important and trivial matters. For bear in mind that the words given to each planet are not assumed meanings, as in a game, but rather their actual influence on life. 3. In Aspectarian number 3, beneath the zodiacal chart furnished herewith are given or left to be filled in by students who do not order the horoscope and Aspectarian filled in for them, the aspects or angular relations of the sun, moon, and planets as seen from the earth on the date of your birth. These aspects are given in degrees in the oblongs opposite and under each planet. Horoscopes differ. You may have several aspects of some planets and none of others. Hence, some spaces will be left blank. Memorize the planetary abbreviations given in the second vertical column of the Aspectarian as SU for Sun, MO for Moon, ME for Mercury, V for Venus, and so on, as you will need to know them in scanning the Astrological Dictionary and interpreting aspects according to their tone and subtone planets, as exampled and explained on pages 25 through 33. NB. In the Aspectarians, the aspects are given as though they were all exactly some multiple of 15 degrees apart. This is for the sake of simplicity in the interest of non-students. In reality, the planets at birth are always, or almost always, more or less than an exact aspect. Students will take this into account as the nearer exact the aspect, the higher percentage in its influence on one's life. The more nearly constant will it be its influence, and the less time transpires in bringing about its indicated conditions. Moreover, in order to furnish non-students a chart, the Aspectarian with the dictionary, as so low a cost, it is necessary to forego computing the planets' places nearer than in even degrees. But as all aspects have some influence, even when they deviate as much as 3 to 5 degrees from the exact 15, 30, 45, 60 degree, etc., only the intensity and not the word quoting is sacrificed to simplicity by listing each aspect in the Aspectarian as though it were exact. In the oblongs of the Aspectarian, above each destined aspect or angle is or to be cited which planet is east and which west. From this tone and subtone planets to the words of the planets forming the aspect. See the aspects and example 2 on page 38. Summary. Refer to the Astrological Dictionary for words of both planets forming the aspect and to the words connoting the tone and subtone planet of each arm end of the aspect, noting which planet is east and which is west as per Aspectarian. Combine these words methodically into interpretive phrases, treating each aspect separately as a phase of your life. Examples in reading a horoscope. An example or two will do more to clarify the correct application of the Astrological Dictionary and the aspects to your horoscope than would a ream of further abstract instructions. Do not slight these examples through undue eagerness to at once read your horoscope. Master them and then analyze methodically your listed aspects in Aspectarian number 3. Give yourself time to develop your analytic and synthetic faculties, and any initial mental confusion will pass. First, seek in the aspects and words the cause or explanation of characteristics or events in your past. Thereby, you will test your growing ability to estimate as yet unmanifested forces in your life. Any other course is likely to result in partial failure in utilizing the unlimited vistas of the system of delineation. Example number 1. Aspectarian number 1, next page, lists the planetary aspects at the birth of ex-Emperor William II of Germany, born January 27th, 1859. To aid beginner, we will here to simplicity in this example. Sun 120 degrees from Jupiter. In the Sun list, you will find the word ambition, Jupiter. Under Jupiter, the second word is abundance. Under 120 degrees, you will find striving. Combining these three words, you'll learn he would be ambitious in striving for abundance. Add the Jupiter word fortune and the Sun Jupiter word glory and expand the interpretation to abundance of fortune and glory, and so on. Use for this aspect the better words of the Sun and Jupiter because 120 degrees is an A aspect as per third paragraph, page 25. Here's another example. Sun opposing Saturn as a B aspect. The 180 degree means opposition, conflict, and need of balance. Under the Sun, find the first bad word is arrogant. The first dubious Saturn word is aback. And under D, you will find down. Hence, through some great conflict, destroying the balance of things, his arrogance would be taken aback or down. Further, under Saturn, you find later, frustrate, humiliation, and defeat. From this, you deduce that his ambitions, Sun, for great good, Jupiter, fortune, Jupiter, due to Sun at 120 degrees of Jupiter, would later be frustrated and meet humiliating defeat. To all this add the Sun words, life and emperor, and the Saturn words, death, him, hate, and solitude. The aspect now reads, a great conflict, 180 degrees, during his life, involving death and him, of hate would lead not only to humiliating defeat of his ambitions, but to a life of solitude for the emperor. Later you would learn that because his Sun was slightly east of an exact opposition to Saturn, the Sun would take a Jupiter tone and subtone, thus indicating for the self-Sun great honors before his Saturn defeat. Next we look at Sun semi-squaring Neptune. Here, combine the Sun word ego with the Neptune words inflation and abdication, and view them in the half-square sense of the 45-degree aspect. You now see the emperor would one time suffer from an inflated ego, and that this would contribute to abdication during his life. In the further examples, we will use the abbreviations of the planets forming the interpretive phrases. Another example would be Mercury 75 degrees from Mars and 135 degrees from Uranus. Under Mercury, find mind and opinion. Under Mars, find Mars, aggressiveness, military, conquest. And under Uranus, find willful, dictator, upstart, seek, autocrat, power, and demigod. From this, you will learn that he would turn his mind to military dictatorship, and that the opinion would one time grow that he was a willful upstart, seeking through war, conquest, and the autocratic power of a demigod. Here again, you see how two or more planets combine their influences when they are in mutual crystalline angles with each other. Another example would be Mars conjunct Neptune. Under Mars, war and conquest. Under Neptune, world, abdication, and exile. Under conjunction, during, hence abdication into exile during a war for world conquest. Napoleon was born with this aspect. Substitute the Neptune word banishment for the Neptune word abdication. And the same phrase applies to Napoleon. Combining this with Sun semi-squaring Neptune, and you see this applied to the Kaiser as Emperor Sun. In both cases, Mars was east of Neptune, therefore the influence began as war and ended in respective abdication and banishment, as cited under the conjunction on page 28. These unfavorable citations, however, in no way deny to him the better phases of his character to be read in some of the untouched upon aspects in his horoscope. Try coding them yourself. Example number 2. As for another example, refer to aspectarian number 2, which gives the planetary aspects for the date of Abraham Lincoln's birth, February 12, 1809. Note carefully in this more detailed example that the tone and subtone planets of both arms of the aspects are touched upon in the interpretation. The aspectarian is so marked as Sun 105 degrees to Uranus, Sun to East, Uranus West, Sun at 120 degree Mars. This aspect brought out in the self Sun the positive and A aspect qualities of Mars, such as indicated by its words brawn, courage, conqueror, defender, executive, heroism, victory, wrestler, etc. It indicated a central Sun figure in war, Mars, but the aspect being 120 degrees as compared with the Kaiser Sun semi-squaring Mars. The former strove, 120, onto victory, Mars. Whereas the latter war, Mars, campaign failed as but half right, 45 degrees. From its beginning, Lincoln's Sun, 120 degrees of Mars, expressed a courageous spirit, an independence of opinion throughout the vigorous debates that marked his political career, thus exempling the tone and subtone planets of both arms of the aspect. Another example would be Sun at 105 degrees Uranus, where we see his self-Sun relations to the rebellion, and that the indicated war, Sun at 120 degrees Mars, would be one arising out of rebellion. Uranus holding the west arm of the aspect gave it a Uranus-Venus tone, showing the revolutionists were eventually compelled to yield. The Sun holding the east arm took a Mars-Pluto tone, showing Lincoln's wisdom throughout the seditions of conflict. It also showed his life lost through becoming the sudden victim of a criminal attack and murder. Another example would be Sun semi-squaring Venus. Notice this is a bad or negative aspect for peace of soul, Venus and Sun. For all his wisdom, Sun, we probably never felt Venus more than half right, 45, in spirit, during the struggle for peace, but Venus holding the east end of the aspect added the gentle, forgiving, and ennobling qualities that so endeared him to all lovers of the right. The Sun holding the west arm took on the tone of Pluto and subtone of Uranus, showing he would be the central figure during a most wasteful rebellion, in which he viewed both sides as but half, 45 right. Another example would be Moon squaring Mars. Here note that while Sun 120 degrees of Mars was a good 120 or A aspect guarding Mars, his life, Sun, in the daytime, Sun again, the Moon 90 degrees of Mars showed this precipitous 90 aspect threatened murder at an evening moon, show moon. Mars in the west end of the aspect gave it a Neptune-Mars tone, hence the attack on Lincoln was not aimed at him as a man, but as a high public executive, as president. See president under Neptune qualified by Mars. The moon holding the east arm gave it a Mars-Neptune tone, showing the scene of the attack was the president's box at the show, and that the shooting would be from a public stage by a public actor. Note here that the word assume is listed under the Neptune and the word part as part of is listed under Mars. A stage is a place where one assumes a part and an actor one who assumes a part. Hence their relation to the east arm of the 90-degree aspect. Do not, however, assume that you will be a professional actor because you have 90-degree aspects, as that is but one meaning of hundreds. You will learn by combining other Mars and Neptune words. Actual vocation is not the product of one aspect, but the sum of training, Mercury, tastes, Venus, and so on. It is often the summation of all one's aspects. Another example would be Jupiter sesquiquadrating Uranus. Here, Jupiter being east takes the tone of Jupiter and Venus. Uranus being west takes the tone of Uranus and Pluto. Hence, Lincoln's greatest goodness, nobility, and justice constituted a grand jury in behalf of social justice, sitting on the case of the revolutionists, who in turn represented wasted initiative and a lost cause. The quotes will be found listed as examples in the 135-degree aspect on page 32. Combine other tone planet words and extend the meaning. We also have Mars at 150 degrees. Mars at 150 degrees Jupiter. Here, Jupiter is east, taking the tones of Jupiter and Mars. It thus stands for nobility and justice, throughout a war for the right. But Mars was west, taking a Saturn and Neptune tone, showing how the war would affect national credit, crushed hopes and dreams, related to the north and south, the whites and the blacks, and bring wholesale depression, particularly affecting the wealth of the aristocratic leisure classes of the east arm of the aspect. Temporarily, the results of the war were bad, but ultimately good, hence the importance of considering each end of the aspects of their respective merits according to their tone and subtone planetary natures, instead of loosely classifying aspects into good and bad groups, such as A and B pages. Page 25. Another example would be Jupiter at 105 degrees, Neptune and Saturn. Here, Jupiter is east and stands for justice and right, amidst the wastage of war. Neptune and Saturn are west and take a Uranus and Venus tone, showing the south of his time was obsessed with a penchant for independence and freedom, while the north held for unity, while advocating individual equality for whites and blacks. Through the east end of the aspect held by Jupiter, the South was concerned in retaining its wealth and leisure, acquired under slavery, and was pleased to secede from the North to uphold its rights as it saw them at that time, though resulting in futile struggle. Saturn conjunct Neptune. This indicated unity of the North and South would be upheld. But as the aspect was not exact, Saturn being west showed the North in the end lost nothing. And Neptune being east, the South learned its lesson. Here review what was said of the conjunction 0 on page 28. Space will not admit or further citations of Lincoln's aspects, but you are advised to attempt to analyze them in the light of history and thus prove your ability to combine the dictionary words in an orderly manner as the planets forming the aspects, and the tone and subtone of each end of the aspects will dictate in the light of these examples. The significant words in these examples are underscored in the dictionary to facilitate your checkup. Go over all the cited aspects using other allowable words, as this will best show you the unlimited range of this interpretive method. It will show you how much more there is to be learned of your horoscope than any astrologer can possibly cover in reading it for you. At first, you may make up some interpretive phrases that do not actually apply to you. Try changing a planetary word here and there for another given under the same planet, and you will then find it fits you perfectly. Remember also that all your life has not yet been lived, and that many deduced characteristics, events, or circumstances that do not seem to apply to you may do so at some future time, when your progressed horoscope brings them out. Each time you go over your aspects and recombine their planetary words as examples, you will learn just that much more about yourself. Students of astrology may, of course, set up horoscopes for the time of eclipses, lunations, and even current daily transits, and read national or world affairs in exactly the same way. In this branch of their studies, they will find the author's texts, the earth and the heavens, and the stars where and how they influence. A great aid in locating the geographic centers where eclipses, lunations, and transits have particular effects. My dad actually does not recommend that part of his work. He already tested it and says it's just BS. Difficult say you. Perseverance and concentration is the price of both knowledge and reward. It is up to you. Lauren Edward Johndro. That is it for today. That was Lauren Edward Johndro's Astrological Dictionary. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.